sometimes it's really difficult to stay the course, and we think to ourselves, how can other people just maintain that energy and that drive? I remember something that Eric Thomas said one time, and he was like, those people at the top are the people with the most energy. And I thought, wow, damn, that's a really good point. It's people with the most energy. It doesn't mean necessarily that they're extroverts or whatever it may be, but they've got the most energy to do what they're doing. And some people may, well, quite naturally move towards this whole idea of, oh, I need to make sure I get enough sleep and nutrition and, exercise and all that kind of stuff there, which is all important stuff. Don't get me wrong, and true. That contributes to it. But that energy comes from drive. That energy comes from a sense of authentic motivation, okay? This is why I talk about authenticity all the time, because I truly believe that if you're aligned to a sense of authentic living, then you're going to be more motivated to do certain things. And this is where we get into the idea of the locus of control, where you're less reactive or more proactive by nature. This is what studies show, at least. Anyway. And so here, I really want you to understand that, when it comes to motivation, and as many of you know already, there are mainly two types of motivation. You've got the extrinsic and the intrinsic forms. Now, of course, they talk about this in many studies and stuff. They talk about hygiene factors, where let's say, for example, you go to work and maybe they try to motivate you by the whole carrot and stick model. So if you stay, in the workplace, then you'll get a bonus. Or if you do this, then you'll get certain benefits. But really and truly, over time, that stuff doesn't really work. And you don't care because maybe you're not motivated in that space because the leaders aren't great. The culture is toxic. You don't really have nice people that you're working with. There is no sense of meaning behind what you're doing. You don't feel like you can do things for yourself. There's no sense of purpose or whatever it may be. However, if you're in a space where you have leaders who are much more inspiring by nature, who are coaching by nature, who really help develop you as an individual, that's going to be better because they're not just trying to draw you with this fake model. And really it ignites what's known as the intrinsic motivation factors, things that come from within. Why is that more important? Because you are making the decision to actually improve or do the things that you want to do. And so this is where we start talking about this idea of drive. So this author known as Daniel H. Pink, many of you would know who he is, wrote these elaborate books. I think he's got 5 different books, but one of them being Drive, where he talks about human motivation. And he draws on some of these things. And he breaks down his model into 3 main bits, okay? There is having a sense of autonomy. There is having a sense of purpose. And there's having mastery as well. What do I mean? So I remember one time when I was coaching a very high-performing young lady, same age as me. And she recently was on, UK British TV, should I say. She's doing really well for herself. And we were trying to dive into what makes her tick. And the number one value that popped up the most was autonomy. Okay, she needed to feel like it was coming from her. She needed to feel like, it was coming from her own mind and accord. And any imposements onto her may stifle her because she knows how she needs to operate and move for her because she knows herself best. And so when we have a sense of autonomy, we feel like that we are valued. We feel like that we are appreciated. We feel like that there is trust from the leaders in us. Now, whether this is within the workspace or not, autonomy is key because we are the protagonists of our life. So autonomy is the first thing. The second thing is mastery, okay? Mastery is very important. I spoke about this in a previous video talking about Robert Greene's book, Mastery, where he talks about having primal curiosity. So having that childlike curiosity to really discover and dissect and dive into a space. Number 2, being in that space of learning and being humble as an apprentice and practicing daily to get those 10,000 hours plus. And 3, getting into a space where you really make it your own. So mastery is really developing those skills, learning those different things in order for you to be the very best that you can be. And the final thing is purpose, having that sense of purpose. Viktor Frankl talks about this in his stuff known as logotherapy, like finding that meaning in life that pushes you, okay? Finding that sense of motivation that is beyond this idea of self-actualization, but is more transcendent by nature. And so when you have a sense of purpose, you understand who you are, you know your values, you know your direction, you know what you're about. And so if you don't have a purpose, as aligned to your authentic self, you're less likely going to be driven to do what you're doing. And this is why knowing your values, understanding who you are as a person based on being authentic and being brutally honest is so key, because you start to understand what your preferences are. You understand what your sense of purpose is. So if you want to be driven, look at these 3 different things in your life and understand, do I have that sense of autonomy? Is there anybody stifling this? Do I have that environment or space where I can develop as a master? And do I have a divine sense of purpose where my values are so sort of connected to me and authentic to me that is undisputable in terms of what I'm trying to do as a person? So hopefully this gives you a clear idea in terms of how you can become driven as an individual. If you like videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.